I grew up in Lake Oswego, Oregon. I went to the University of Oregon, go Ducks, for my bachelor's, and Lewis and Clark College for my master's in arts and teaching. After that, I subbed for a year, kindergarten through 12th grade in a couple school districts. I tried every single grade, took every sub job, special ed, music. Usually they had me watch a video for that because I can't teach music, but you know, I did everything. And realized that all the grades were really fun. I couldn't really just pick one. And I also was tutoring on the side as well, and I still do that a little bit. Then I came and taught at SUMA last year, and here I am standing before you. So yeah. My approach when it comes to teaching is simple. I teach kids where they are at and help them to strive to do their best at their level, not the level of anyone else. I mentioned tutoring earlier. This has been very helpful because I currently tutor a student at the high school level, and this is my 3rd year with her. That means that along with my direct experience of subbing at the high schools, I also am able to see what the expectations are from a variety of teachers every week from tutoring. This has benefited me a lot in my classroom because I know what is needed to be prepared, or to prepare my students for high school. The Onyx kids learn about a lot of things, but among those are organization, study skills, independent work, group problem solving, all while dealing with the emotional changes with growing up. And day in the life of my classroom, mind you, the schedule is always on the board, and the kids actually thank me for that, is where the kids walk in, we do interpersonal, then we have physical activity, language arts, math, and then we'll either do American Sign Language or music, lunch, recess, humanities or science, project-based learning or counsel, and then we wrap up at the end of the day with whatever is on our minds. I know that is a lot to hear, and there's no way you'll remember any of that. So I can break down a few of the classes for you right now, what we do. So in language arts, right now my students are learning to write fiction papers. So for that, what they're doing is, you know, adding a lot of detail, and it's really independent. So when they work on those, they'll be at the computer and they'll ask me for help if they need it. But I let them work, and then when they get to a roadblock, what happens is then, you know, I'll read it over with them, give them suggestions of where they could add detail, where, you know, they might need some sentence structure help, things like that. But it's really one of the areas where I'm able to let them kind of work freely. And it's very individual, so I know a lot of people think, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, middle school, that's a lot to do in one classroom. I have 7 students, by the way. So what I do is language arts and math especially are so individualized that I know that's oftentimes parents' concerns. Like, well, what about my child? They need help with this, or they have this mastered but not this. Language arts, for example, they are able to work on their papers. They're able to read at their level, and I just kind of float and help where needed. The only problem is with the fiction papers is I have a lot of really creative kids, and so they don't know how to end their paper. They're like, Miss Pepper, I'm writing a novel. I'm like, okay, well, let's start with a short story. So that's a little challenging right now. But for math, it's another area where parents often are like, how do you deal with that many grade levels? What I've done is I'm very organized. I'm an organizational person. I kind of did the same thing as Mr. Lay at the beginning of the year. I thought, how am I going to do this? So I went on Amazon, ordered a bunch of different textbooks from middle school and high school levels, and started pulling my resources. You know, made photocopies, took this, that from there and everything, and tested my kids at the beginning of the year, saw where their holes were, and thought, like there's some overlap, but a lot of them have different holes and things they haven't picked up through the year or that they're really good at. And so what I decided to do is with 7 kids, there's 7 different lessons. What I did with that is I'll have kids working individually, and I'll go around, and luckily they're all independent enough that I can talk to student A over here for a minute, answer their question, then go to student B, and then student C needs something, and then student D's good the whole time, whatever the case is. I'm able to address their concerns, and I have a for the most part, pretty patient group, and a lot of them can move on to their next question and work on it. And then what I also do too is I'll test them for different areas, and if they've mastered it, we'll move on, we won't worry about it. And if they are struggling with something, or let's say I test them on it again, I do a pre and post test for everything. And on the post test, if they still aren't getting something, we'll go over it more. And I make sure, because I don't like the idea of just saying, oh, well, you kind of got it, let's move on. That's not good with me. I want to make sure they really have it down, because that is what leads to problems in high school with math, is when students aren't confident with that. In humanities, we are learning about revolutions and how they have happened through like taxation and other economical problems. Just this week, my students have been doing a compare and contrast assignment for the American, Russian, and French revolutions, which we've been studying all term. So with that, they did kind of a what do I know already, how do they compare, and then today they went on the computers and did some research to fill in their areas that they couldn't remember. Science has been all about food and food production. We have watched food documentaries. I might have turned 1 or 2 kids vegetarians. Done an experiment on preservatives in bread, which is disgusting, by the way, if you've ever done that. It's amazing how many different colors of mold there are. Used the scientific method for our lab write-ups. It's very important for high school. And compared research on if all GMOs are created equal. Both in science and humanities, they're very, a lot more, not as individualized and more discussion-based, more group-oriented. So that's kind of the balance between that and the individualized stuff for language arts and math right now. We also have balance boards in my classroom. So for those, because middle school, there's kind of an expectation for kids to be able to, you know, stay focused and listen. And I want, you know, we don't have as many body breaks or times to play as other groups. So what we have in the back of my classroom, if you go see it later, there are balance boards that Mr. Lay was kind enough to make, which are a piece of PVC pipe and a big, what, 2x4 or 2x10? Yeah, that makes more sense. And duct tape, so there's a little bit of friction. Anyways, and so I bumped it, okay. They use that, and they can go in the back of the classroom, and when it's appropriate time, they can use that to kind of get the wiggles out if they need to. So I'm not super strict with them staying in their seat, but they know that the respect of keeping the classroom together and not taking everyone else off track. When there's conflict in my classroom, we talk about the situation openly. It's important to listen to both sides respectively and with care. I make sure to ask open-ended questions to further understand the feelings that's going on for the kids. We together help co-create solutions for the conflict. Sometimes this waits until the end of the day or when my group has counsel, but other times it needs to be dealt with in the moment. It's really important. Overall, this year has been a pretty fun, or overall, so far, this term has been pretty fun for the Onyx kids. I pride myself on my rapport with my students, and they know they can come to me with any challenges or successes. I believe my expectations are fair, and that with the help, they will be prepared to knock high school out of the water.